Hello folks, I'm Nick Bernardo, your host of MyGovWatch Live, the B2G Roundtable. If you're east of the Rocky Mountains here in the US, good afternoon. Good morning to those out west, and hello to anyone joining us from the far corners of the earth or watching online in the future. Today's Wednesday, February 18th, 2026. This series is brought to you by MyGovWatch. With a curated white glove approach, MyGovWatch delivers leads in more than 200 industries in a way that feels passive to you as the user at a fraction of the cost of legacy websites. Big government contracts do not start with a solicitation, but all roads lead to one, and your budget for hearing about RFPs does not have to be thousands of dollars per year. Start your 14-day free trial today. So folks, we're going to jump right into questions here. We have Arif, I believe, who wants to join us.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody.
What do you do and where are you joining us from?
Sure. So, good afternoon. My name is Arif Wedderburn. I am the owner of Bel Air Logistics LLC, which is a medical courier service. So, based in Maryland, and I'm primarily located in Baltimore County, Towson to be specific. And I help to service hospitals, medical centers, and other facilities when getting their needs to their customers. So, more so B2B and not necessarily B2C interactions. And my question I apologize.
Go ahead.
Okay. The question that I wanted to bring to the table is I have had a little bit of hiccups with soliciting. I know with following the requirements of whatever contracts that may be available, sometimes it can be very nuanced. I wanted to understand a little bit more about positioning for contracts because I can see the list of prime contractors that are available, but getting to the table to have these conversations can be a bit nuanced because it happens outside of the room rather than in. So I just wanted to get advice on networking and just being as present as possible.
Okay, and this is specifically in relation to federal contracting, is that right?
Federal, local, or state, either or.
Okay, and tell us a little bit more about what you do.
So I'm more so last mile delivery. I don't do stat delivery with medical courier businesses, but whether it be organ transplants, um, medical equipment, or I haven't been in business that long, so I apologize for being a bit not being as fluid as I should. But organs, fluids, other varieties within supplies within medical couriers.
Yeah, so you're interested in subcontracting at the federal, state, or local level and on
Yes.
meeting companies that can provide those opportunities to you.
Yes.
Okay. So there's a million ways to accomplish that. And I wouldn't say a million, but just some things that I'll rattle off and you could just sort of like, refer to this. This will be on YouTube in a few days, but give these kinds of things some thought. So at the federal level, every federal agency, every federal department has what's called an OSDBU. Or have you heard that term before?
I have not.
Okay. The Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization. And so there's a person and there's a department at each federal agency that has a person or a group that is responsible for making sure that small businesses, and that's not just small, but it's small, disadvantaged, hub zone, woman owned, service disabled, veteran owned, that they are aware of or that they can maximize their opportunity for the contracting initiatives with that federal agency. So the first thing you want to do is identify like who would be the OSDBUs who are associated with the federal departments that you think might have the opportunities, that might have the subcontracting opportunities that would relate to your business. So that would be like one way to do it. So what you're doing is you're sneaking up on this problem, as my father always used to say when I used to work with him as a teenager in construction. Sometimes you just don't have an answer right away. You have to sneak up on it. So that is one prong of it, is like knowing who is your ally at that federal agency. Another prong to what you're asking is an awareness of how to navigate usaspending.gov. So this is a fantastic resource for not only prime contracts, but subcontracts. You can see data on what spending is happening with different federal agencies. You can see spending in different parts of the country. And most importantly, in your case, you can see spending by NAICS code. Now, the federal NAICS code system is not always great. I've written some things online you can go read about with NAICS codes and federal contracting, but you want to understand what your NAICS codes are. Can I ask you, have you done any research around what your NAICS codes are federally?
Yes, I have two, 492110 and 492210.
Man, that's music to my ears. Anytime somebody knows their NAICS code, that's a leg up. So I would spend some time as the second part of the answer on usaspending.gov and just become familiar with the interface. I certainly would not be looking all over the country. I would be like, within 100 miles of where you're located, what are some contracting initiatives that are happening in those states and that involve those NAICS codes? So that would be another prong of the answer. Every federal department also publishes contracting forecasts. So that would be an additional thing to do, is to understand what contracting initiatives are coming up that are being broadcast as future contracting initiatives at the agency level. And each one has a spreadsheet or a list. You can go find them online and try to understand which of those contracts that are forecasted might have subcontracting involving what you do. And then you have awareness of those. Another thing I would do on USA Spending is identify the companies that are, winning contracts within 100 miles of where you're at, and just see, like, go to their website. Do they have? Sometimes they'll have like an onboarding process on their website. If you're an existing federal contractor and a significant federal contractor, some of those companies will have like a portal on their website that says, "Are you interested in subcontracting with us?" And then you can just fill that out. That's another way of knowing like who to contact or a way that you can start that conversation. Finally, federally, I would also mention that there are events that happen. There are mailing lists, so that back to the OSDBU, you might, get on a mailing list. You might find out there's a mailing list for a particular federal department that you'd like to do business with. Get on that email list. You'll hear about different events. If there's events federally, then you could certainly, that would be your way of knowing about events that are happening. And if there are events that you can go to, absolutely you should go to them. A plug I will put in for an event that I will be going to and speaking at next month. And this is the Subcontracting Symposium. And this is by Jay Schaus and Associates. If you go to mygovwatch.com, halfway down, we have our events. You click on that. March 26th in Reston, Virginia, there's going to be an in-person event with a lot of federal contractors who will be actually at that event. So I don't know if you're in the Northern Virginia area, but that's like an in-person opportunity as well. So let me just stop there. I know I said a lot. Follow-up questions. And by the way, before we go further, if you have a question after we sort of finish with Arif here, please raise your hand. We'll bring you on. Amanda, I'm going to get to your question pretty soon, but maybe a follow-up question?
No, you were pretty thorough, honestly. So I will take those bits and go ahead and assess what I need to do from here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for joining. And let me just see if we have Benjamin Gleason, our friend Benjamin Gleason. Let's bring Benjamin on. So Benjamin, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Welcome to my GovWatch Live. Although I know the answer to this, what do you do and where are you joining us from?
I'm joining us from the Northern Texas area, so the Dallas area. We do data reporting in the substance use prevention field. So we set up and create customized data reporting solutions for states that are receiving federal block grant funding in the prevention field. So very, very specialized. My question is very specific to Arif's issue, and it's just how are we spelling OSDBU?
Oh, literally OSDBU, B as in boy, U.
Oh,
Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization.
oh, great.
So
Okay.
the OSDBU's role is to sort of, I would say, maybe not be a broker, but be a conduit for small businesses being aware of the prime contracting opportunities for small businesses and the different categories, but also for subcontracting opportunities within their federal domain. So that is the role of the OSDBU. It's an important role, and all the federal agencies and departments have the OSDBU. Hey Benjamin, let me put you on the spot because
Hmm.
I try to make these sessions, as you remember, not so pedantic and a little bit more fun. I'll put you on the spot.
Sure.
Coffee or tea, and why?
I had a couple of cups of coffee already, but I alternate days so I don't become too dependent on coffee, but I'm still drinking black tea. but it's just maybe it's a little bit less intense.
Yeah, and there's a map out there online of like these countries in the world are coffee countries, these other countries are tea countries, but I guess the US is maybe both.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, follow-up questions.
hmm No follow-up questions as of yet, except around. So I joined the group. Um, I think it might have been a LinkedIn group, but I haven't been as active. I've been getting called away to other sort of client-related things, but I assume you would encourage us to join the LinkedIn group related to MyGovWatch. And I'm interested in sort of participatory actions. I won't be able to make the in-person event that you mentioned, but those sort of things I'm trying to do more of. So whether they're online or on LinkedIn or some sort of networking, I'm trying to do more of that and sort of learn from my peers. So
Yeah,
are there
fantastic. And I'm going to mention a group again. So this is the GovCon RFP Growth Forum by MyGovWatch. It's had, over 18,000 people in it for quite a while, or 17,000, I can't remember. But we're trying to, and we rebranded the group recently to make it more active, specifically around networking in GovCon. So that could be anything from like finding peers, finding prime contractors. There was a woman who posted something the other day on an event in the United Kingdom, and they call them tenders in the UK for proposal writers and tender response writers. So, yeah, I mean, anytime folks in the audience or watching on YouTube later, if you have a question about government contracting or RFPs, post it there, and it won't be just me answering. Hopefully, you can gain some traction with networking with other folks as well. So yeah, Benjamin, if you want to stay on the panel, you can. Something might come up. As you know, it's very casual. Anything else now?
I think that's it. I would just encourage you if you haven't reached out to Nick directly for help. He's been very excellent and very hands-on and really thoughtful in helping us get the search terms. And I really, really appreciate it. I know he said white glove in the introduction, but he really means it. So it's been a very soft introduction into a world that can feel overwhelming if you're a small business like I am. So I really
Yeah, and I appreciate your kind words, Benjamin. And I'll just sort of point out one of the big differences here at MyGovWatch that's different from a lot of the other websites is they don't say it at the other websites, but they're just selling you a login. Good luck, you're on your own. We believe if we provide the user with some help up front early on, you will see, and I think in your case, you're a great example, you'll see a lot more of what you're looking for because the worst thing that you could do is buy a login, whether it be on our site or another, and the stuff's on the website, but you're just not seeing it. And that's something that our users notice all the time on our site versus other sites. So thank you for your kind words, Benjamin. I'll tell you, Sidra, we're going to be bringing you on next. I see your hand is up, but first I'm going to go to a question by Amanda, who was kind enough to post it on the LinkedIn group. And I'm using three different devices for this event, folks. I have my camera perched on a laptop that I now cannot use because the audio wasn't working out. I'm turning around because it's actually on a desktop that this camera is connected to, but the desktop's behind me. And I'm going to be reading this question off of my phone from the LinkedIn group. This is from Amanda, who's CEO at Mindscape. And Amanda writes, she's just learning about government contracts. She's looking for any advice on how to get started or what requirements she might need to look into. We mostly complete RFPs in the website build space. We're a custom development shop that has been in business almost 25 years. We're a good fit when a secure ground up build is the priority. And of course, a beautiful, great user experience is a close second. Thoughts or advice, open to suggestions. Amanda, thank you for your question. I will tell you that you are in a space, and there are 205 categories on mygovwatch.com. There's about five or six of them that relate to marketing and advertising. And I will just tell you that there's never been a time where more government agencies finally understand that branding is a thing and they should take it seriously. So, never before are we seeing the number of opportunities on our website that show that the government agencies, and this is federal, state, and local, colleges, hospitals, you name it, um, they understand that they need to have a good web presence. they understand that there is such a thing as branding, and they understand that they're competing. So if you were to sign up on the site, not only will you get a month because you asked this question, but you will see a ton of opportunities and very nuanced opportunities. So some of them might just say marketing consulting, some of them might say website redesign because that's all they're looking for. Some might say logo development. Some might say, destination marketing, where they're sort of acknowledging that they're competing with other places for the tourist dollar or for the business dollar if they're trying to attract businesses into their state, county, or town or municipality. So I would say you're sort of at the edge of the pool, and whether you use our site or another, you need to hear about the leads in some way. Hopefully, you use ours, but you need to jump into the pool. And the best way to jump into the pool is to start bidding on things selectively. Start with smaller opportunities. Start with towns that look like maybe, might be too small for your typical private sector client, but that might be something that other agencies might not bid on because it's some small podunk town in Kentucky. That's the one you want to bid on. Once you get your foot in the door with a small town in GovCon, the sky's the limit. Once you have a reference, it becomes very easy to sell up the chain, whether it be local to county, county to state, state to federal. But I would just encourage you to look at a lot of opportunities. And if you had an account on a website like MyGovWatch or another, hopefully it's ours, you would probably feel like you're drinking from a fire hose. And that's the way I would answer that. So let's take a look here. Let's bring Sidra on. And folks, I will just encourage you as well to please raise your hand. I think I should mention that GSA is about to release Refresh 31, which has major changes for certain service categories around the way that pricing is approved on GSA schedules. So you might want to talk about that. You might want to talk about pending partial shutdowns of the federal government. But Sidra, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yeah, you are. Hi, Nick. How are you?
Welcome to my GovWatch Live. Where are you joining us from?
I'm in Orange County, California, between LA and San Diego.
Okay, I'm gonna put you on the spot. I'm gonna ask you a question first. The beach or the mountains, and why?
Oh, 100% the beach. I, I'm a lazy vacationer, so mountains, I got to do work.
And what's the most beautiful beach you've ever visited? I'm sure you could drive to some of them.
Uh, so locally, La Jolla. I love La Jolla, and then probably St. John. I just think they have really beautiful beaches.
Yeah, I remember one family vacation, and we were on a boat, and I just remember so many different bays and estuaries around St. John. Beautiful, beautiful beach, but never been to La Jolla. But yeah, we certainly share that in common about St. John and the U.S. Virgin Islands. And for the benefit of others who are with us today, what do you do?
So I do leadership consulting, um, primarily in the education space, but I have done work in corporate and federally too.
Okay, so you come to us with some GovCon experience, and what kinds of questions do you have for us today?
I don't know if this is even in your wheelhouse. Oh, first, I just want to thank Benjamin for asking how to spell OSDBU because I had no clue. So
Yeah, OSDBU. It's one of those
yeah,
acronyms that we pronounce just like NAICS.
I thought you were saying a place, and I'm looking it up, and I would have never found it. So thank you, Benjamin, for that. So I don't know if this is in your wheelhouse or not, but I once fa someone found me and I got a micro purchase. It was a small contract. It was like, I don't know, I think it was like $9,000 at the time. And it was great. It was super easy and it was good. It was fun to do. And I know that they have moved up micro purchases to $15,000, but I don't know how to find them. Is that something that's in your wheelhouse or no?
So in my wheelhouse, meaning that this is something
That
we can
you know,
talk. Yeah,
that you
yeah,
know.
yeah. This is certainly something we can talk about, and I can give you some
Perfect.
ideas around that. But you would generally not be finding micro purchase opportunities on mygovwatch.com.
Right.
Yeah, so and just as a distinction for anyone who is using the site or who's considering it, there is something called a purchasing threshold. That's the generic term, and federally, Sidra is referring to the micro purchase threshold. So below $15,000, the federal government can just buy something. And now, a lot of times they'll get two quotes, but they don't always have to get two quotes. So if something seems reasonable in price, it's no different than you saying, I need to buy a new printer and going and buying a new printer. And so Sidra has done that before successfully, it sounds like. And everyone should know that at the state and local level, there are purchasing thresholds as well. So, for example, in my state, New Jersey, I think there's a threshold around, $37,000 or $38,000, where below that, any state entity or local entity can procure something in a similar manner below that threshold. And the local municipalities at the state level, and this is important, the local municipalities can establish their own thresholds below the state threshold, just not above the state threshold. So the town that I'm in now, Collingswood, may have their own threshold, which may be lower than the state standard. So yeah, those would not be on MyGovWatch, but certainly there is a ton of government purchasing for the smaller deals. Now, as far as what you've done in that area before, I would also point out that it's often easier to make that sale, and you probably saw that dynamic. Did it feel like almost a private sale?
Oh yeah, totally. They literally just reached out to me because I'm trained in 7 habits of highly effective people. And I had it on my capability statement, and they just reached out and said, "Hey, we want to do this. Can you do it?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah, yeah. And so at that point, what I would also encourage folks to do is have an account at sam.gov, and I guess you have one.
Hmm.
Okay. So having an account at sam.gov is one of the first things that you need to do if you ever want to receive a phone call like Sidra received. So what you're doing on that site is you are not only giving them a host of generic corporate or organizational information, addresses, bank accounts, things like that, but you're specifically saying here are the NAICS codes in which you are able to compete. And you can put any number of things on there. And you don't actually have to prove that you've done that work in the NAICS codes that you put on your SamGov account, but you should do things that you're either doing today, have done, or would certainly be capable of doing. Choose a lot of them, and you're going to be choosing a primary as well. If you're a small business, there's a little option in SamGov that lets you affirm that you can be listed or you'd like to be listed on the SBA SBS small business website. So you can decline that option, but I would strongly encourage people to not only have the SamGov account, but click the box to allow your listing on the SBA SBS website. That also goes back to subcontracting because that is a tremendous resource. It's a new website as of July last year where prime contractors can go to that website and say which small businesses in this NAICS code have capabilities. And to Citra's point, federal buyers can look at that website as well and just say, well, who in California is trained on the habits of highly effective people? And I wouldn't be surprised if there are many tens of thousands of people who received a similar call. So, what else are you thinking about micro purchase, Sidra?
Probably, you mean areas or just around the area?
Yeah. So, what are some other? Maybe I'll ask it a different way. What are some challenges that you may be having around smaller purchases, or even if it's above the threshold, federal, state, or local?
I think just knowing how to reach out to people, like knowing who to reach out to proactively, to look for things. But I liked your idea um, that I think you gave Amanda, which was starting smaller and using that as jump offs.
Yeah,
So,
it's tremendous. It's
yeah,
tremendous. And the fact that, and how long ago was the federal deal that you did?
it was about 4 years ago. So it was a while.
Okay, so there's a concept in federal procurement called past performance, and that's a term of art in the federal regulations. And generally speaking, if you're pursuing deals, they're looking at your past performance. So generally speaking, they're going to be looking at things that are more recent as opposed to things that maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So
Mhm.
within 5 years, that's pretty good. But yeah, if you're able to develop something like that that's in the last year or two, or do something current that would be similar, that would be highly advantageous. And yeah, so there's just a tremendous amount of opportunity. I would also note this as well. There's a system that's been out there forever called the FPDS, or the Federal Procurement Data System. And that is a system that is currently migrating to the usaspending.gov portal. Now, I don't have a firm date on when that's going to happen, but it's going to open up because the FPDS is a very difficult system to navigate. So at one time, we even had to hire a consultant around like how to navigate that system. But that system's going away. It's going to go to usaspending.gov, and actually, I think SamGov as well, or maybe it's just SamGov. And you'll be able to see who is buying things in your NAICS code below the micro purchase threshold for various products and services. So you'll have a better sense of like, who else should I be pitching for this kind of thing? Because you'll
Okay.
be able to see things in a way that's been very difficult to get to historically online.
That's so helpful. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And feel free to stay on the panel, Sidra. You may have a follow-up question or something to chime in based on someone else's question. Would you like to stay on with us?
You know what? I have a hard stop at 11 because I have another meeting, but I'll stay on as long as I
Yeah,
can.
stay on. If you need to jump off, that's fine as well. And it looks like Lissa's going to be joining us. Let's bring Lissa on. And I'm just going to check. I'm going to check the LinkedIn group real quick, and let's just see if there are any additional questions there. Yes, we do have. We have a post from Benjamin. Benjamin, I'm going to assume that's not necessarily a question for today, but something for networking purposes. So, Lissa, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Lisa, yes. Nice
Lisa,
to meet you.
I'm so sorry. I saw the double
Fine.
S. I guessed wrong.
No, it's fine. You're good. How are you?
Yeah, Lisa, thank you for joining MyGovWatch Live. Where are you joining us from?
I am joining from Puerto Rico, so I'm down in the Caribbean.
Fantastic. I wish I were in Puerto Rico. Uh, well, I'm going to put you on the spot first. What are you watching the Olympics, and what is your favorite sport?
I am not watching. I'm not a big sports fan, but
Okay.
I do like to get outdoors and I do love to do Pilates. So that's as much knowledge as I can share.
And when are they going to make Pilates an Olympic event? I'm sure. I'm sure they could find a place for that. Well, let me ask you a different question. If someone had the Olympics on, um, and you wanted to change the channel, what would you want to change it to?
Probably Food Network.
There you go. There you
Or
go.
TV.
Diners, drive-ins, and dives.
Yes.
Well, and so what do you do from sunny Puerto Rico?
So I work with a payments organization, and we support both in public and private sectors. We mainly work with merchants to provide them with payment solutions. And recently, we've been really focused on government programs that are kind of modernizing from paper-based payment solutions and want to transition into digital payments. Particularly, that's why we signed up for MyGovWatch, which kind of leads to my question. In your experience, when agencies procured prepaid or gift card services or programs, what type of services are they looking for? We've been focusing on financial or technology solutions, but any keyword search terms or right area that we should look for would be appreciated.
Okay, and I just want to clarify here. When you say prepaid cards, can you just elaborate a little bit on the kinds of things you're looking for?
So programs or governments or merchants often are transitioning from digital payments that could happen. A great example that I could give: rebates are issued by X and Y merchant to their customers. Sometimes they can be paid, whether it's ACH or checks. Some are looking for alternative solutions, which are prepaid cards. So basically transitioning from one form of payment to the other. In our case, we are mainly focused in prepaid cards or gift cards. They can be different type of cards. That's our area that we would have a little bit of more expertise in.
Okay, so prepaid cards, and I'm somewhat familiar with that term. It's not often that I say this, and I'm loath to say it live, but I'm just going to say it. That is not something that I can just immediately call up from my brain and say, I know that this is all over my GovWatch, or I know that this kind of purchasing is happening where it's above the micro purchase threshold or the purchasing threshold where it would rise to the level of a solicitation. So I would just offer you, a one-on-one session if you want to look at the site together. Because, and I'll just say this, and this is like for anyone's benefit as well. Sometimes, and I think Benjamin, you and I went through this. sometimes when people sign up for MyGovWatch or a site like MyGovWatch, they may not see anything that's perfect for bidding purposes on that date. The question then becomes, how often would something like that come up? And you can only look at historical data on that. Or in your case, if you feel that there's some emerging market, then there might be an opportunity to just like extrapolate out. You might say, okay, how many of these things happened in 2023, 2024, 2025? And we can do those searches in a one-off session with you. And it would be, I put on my sales hat at that point and say, okay, let's just go through it together one-on-one. But it would be hard for me to comment on that now because I just can't tell you how often that kind of thing comes up. However, there is an entire section of the site around cash management and payments. So there is generally stuff on the site, and hopefully you're already seeing that. It's just a question of like, how often would a very particular widget come up?
How would we be able to schedule a one-on-one with you?
What I will do after this session, Lisa, is I will send you an email and we'll just do it.
Yeah.
And yeah, generally, I do a training once a week at 11 Eastern on Mondays. But if you can't attend that, then we could do something one-off, maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, into next week.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Looking forward.
So thank you. Yeah, and any follow-up questions or anything that's just in general about government contracting that you're curious about?
I think that was it.
Well, Lisa, thank you so much for joining, and feel free to stay on the panel. I will just say that, folks, I don't have anything in the group. I don't have anything in the pending posts for the LinkedIn group. I'm at this point looking for folks who would like to raise their hand and ask a new question or bring something up. Yeah, we're looking for people to participate in the session. Certainly, if anyone on the panel has a follow-up question, I can take that. MyGovWatch Live ranges anywhere from 45 minutes. We're not even there yet. I've had it go as long as 2 hours, depending on the size of the audience and the number of questions that are coming up. What I don't do is I don't try to turn it into something where I force it to last at least an hour or anything like that. I just like having folks, ask questions, and if the event sort of dies a natural death, that's okay as well. So, sort of looking for questions here. Yeah, again, I'll mention that anyone who participates in MyGovWatch Live with audio and video qualifies for a 1-month free trial at mygovwatch.com instead of the 2 weeks advertised on the site. And that applies whether you raise your hand and jump in on this session today, or if you post a question in the LinkedIn group as well. So yeah, just sort of looking at things here. I guess, Lisa, I don't know if you would be interested in this, but I could certainly do some searches. If folks start dropping off here, we could sort of transition and turn this into something that is more about what you're looking for. But yeah, I'm not sure if you would like to do that, but I could certainly offer that if we don't have any questions.
I think I would prefer the one-on-one if that's okay.
Yeah, that's
I
no
like
problem.
that idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's no problem at all. So yeah, and Benjamin, I know you're still with us. I'm not sure if you had a follow-up question, or is there anything? I saw you posted something in the LinkedIn group. Should I read it just for the purposes of anyone who might be watching later on YouTube? And Benjamin is up. We have someone. We have Amanda. Let's bring Amanda on. Hello, Amanda.
Hey, I wasn't expecting to be camera ready today, but I do have some questions and I figured I would jump in and ask.
Welcome to MyGovWatch Live. Can I ask you before we go further, how long have you been in the session?
Since the beginning, I messaged you earlier and said, I'm not hearing anything. I don't know if it's me or you, but I'll jump back in. So
I'm just, I would like to say it's not, I'm not a boomer, I'm not senile, but I will tell you for the first, I have a unique configuration happening today, and I allowed myself to let the technology get the better of me. So yeah, I did speak a little bit earlier about the question. I think you posted that in the LinkedIn group. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Well, if you joined at the beginning, I'm going to put you on the spot. And do we like winter or do we hate winter, and why?
So I used to love winter. We're in Michigan, and the older I get, the more I hate winter. So I am definitely a sunny weather girl.
I am right there with you, sister.
No, used to ski, snowboard, love all of that stuff. I think maybe like your knees start to get a little older, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
I know the feeling. Let me ask you a question. You ever get to Western Michigan near Silver Lake State Park?
Yes. So my family used to have a place in Shelby. So I travel there a lot.
Well, I bring it up because now I'm curious. Do you ever have enough snow where people are snowboarding on the dunes?
Oh, I'm sure it's possible. I've never seen
Yeah,
it.
that would be truly wild. And I encourage anyone who wants to take a drive through the great state of Michigan to check out Silver Lake State Park for these massive sand dunes. If you don't want to go all the way up north to the more famous, I think it's Great Bear, Sleeping Bear,
Sleeping Bear Dunes. Yeah.
Sleeping Bear Dunes. So, Amanda, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
So I think everyone already heard that you're in the marketing business. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So we do website design development. I mean, that's primarily where we get bigger contracts from. We run paid ads also, so Google, Meta, in that space, but that's less, I guess, relevant to why I was reaching out and wanting to learn more about the services that you offer. And I had mentioned, I think I was at a conference and we were talking about, leads and what's out there and good segments to be in, and had a great conversation with a gentleman who found a lot of success in government contracts, had mentioned, a few different websites, and yours was one of them. So I was just doing my homework and looking to see, what, how the platform operates. Obviously, prices, a big part of that, and your website looked very, competitive. Not only that, but there was good information there. I liked that you had on your LinkedIn supplemental information, so I could go and look at some things. I think the group that you started is great. So I guess I'm coming from this is all new to me. You've done a great job answering questions to the other members of the panel, but how do we get the most out of our subscription? Like, what are those things? I know we talk about with our clients, like, you don't know what you don't know. And so as the expert, here are things to think about, or, ways to approach it. And that would be my question is, how do I get the most out of my subscription? What things, don't I even know to ask or to look for?
Yeah, great question. And so one thing I mentioned earlier, I'll just reiterate it, is that there is so much opportunity in the area of marketing and advertising on our site. And because of that, ultimately, you would be faced with a scenario where you probably are not dedicating people to this, right? You're probably not dedicating full-time resources to government contracting. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So because you're not looking at it in such a way where you're not saying, well, these three people are only going to go after government contracts, bid writers, salespeople, what have you, you are the question that people don't ask enough, and this is, I think, directly answers your question, is think about it like you're reverse engineering what you are willing to spend in terms of your resources. Because the average customer who leaves MyGovWatch is not leaving because of this $60 a month or $100 a month charge. It's the soft cost that comes along with having the subscription that you need to reverse engineer. And here's what I mean by that. If you have, and I'm just going to make some assumptions here, I don't know what is or isn't true about your organization. If you have a full-time salesperson or salespeople, ask yourself, what percentage of that person's time or people's time would you like them to dedicate to trying to meet people? That would be one answer. If you have a person who responds to RFPs in the private sector, do you want to add a second one, or do you want that person to maybe say 20% of the bids you send out are government RFPs? That would be another decision point. So I would start from the premise of how much treasure, time, and other resources do you want to dedicate to this? And then you sort of build a plan around what you're willing to expend. And let me just stop there and just get you to react to that.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And we do have resources that we could allocate, but it's a good point to think of, how much of their time do I want spent here? And then that leads me to wonder, our government, in the government contract sector, what does that close time look like for a deal? So I know in the private sector, I'm looking at about 90 days from, they're looking for something, we kind of go through the process to they're choosing a vendor and we're moving forward. So as you're reverse engineering that, understanding that for, any proposal that you do submit and you're responding to an RFP, what does that typical timeline look like for when they actually choose a vendor?
Yeah, fantastic question. And so the typical timeline for a government contract will be highly dependent upon how big the project is and whether it's state, local, or federal. I would say that at the local level, I would say anywhere from 60 days to 6 months, depending on like how big the project is, or how many rounds of negotiation, or are they doing oral presentations and that kind of thing. But I would say you wouldn't notice. I would say 6 months would be an outlier. But sometimes you're going to come across scenarios where they just keep punting and delaying a decision. And that does happen. But I would say 60 to 120 days would sort of be the sweet spot for your smaller to medium sized municipal clients and county clients. So I would also tell you that, this is an area where I'll just go back to something that was said earlier about purchasing thresholds. The greatest opportunity for companies that do web design, if they want to do some proactive selling instead of just reacting to an RFP, and there's a place for that as well, is look for websites near your hometown that are just terrible, right? Where are you operating from? Where do you have a lot of references? And just start poking around at this county's website, this town's website, and you're going to find out which ones pretty quickly need a do-over. And I would then look up what is the purchasing threshold in your state or in that state, and then does the municipality or county have their own purchasing threshold, and make them an unsolicited offer below that threshold. And you may just get your first contract and it may have nothing to do with a publicly listed solicitation.
That's great advice.
Yeah, thank you. And just getting that first reference is the most important thing. It's like that catch 22. How do you get experience until you have experience? But it sounds like you have pretty significant, maybe even brand name or recognizable private sector clients.
Yeah, I mean, we do great in the private sector, and we've done a lot in the education space. So we've got education clients, really just looking for, what is our next avenue for, finding really good clients that have, budgets for website builds that also have an appreciation or are security focused. And so that just naturally led me to think, government contract work or people who are in that space would have that mindset in understanding the importance of a really secure website and why custom development is needed instead of, just a spin up of a template or, a copy of something that already exists. Like why what we do is necessary.
Yeah, I mean, I would just look at this webinar as an example. We do this once a month. It's free for anybody who wants to jump on. But marketing your expertise to people who need it, I mean, we found that to be tremendously valuable in marketing our business. And so, things like, marketing a webinar around emerging trends in website redesign and security, and sending an invitation to a free webinar to anyone in municipal government within 100 miles of your office. I mean, you're going to get people who come to that. And you might even put yourself in a position where somebody might contact you and say, "Hey, we're looking out about putting an RFP out." And then at that point, you have a tremendous opportunity to what we call ghost the RFP, and that is help the decision makers write the specifications of the RFP. And you can do all kinds of things in that process that make it so that you're not the only one qualified, but it makes it a really short list of people who are qualified. If you put yourself in a position to help people figure out like what should they even put into an RFP around website design, and security is something that I'm sure, a lot of government organizations, maybe they have somebody who's an expert in it, but maybe your organization would know way more than they would about it.
Yeah, we see a lot of, they want beautiful design, and I'm like, that's great. Like that's a really low bar. Like that should be like a no-brainer. We want it to look pretty, but like what, it's a tool, it needs to do a job, and it also needs to be secure. So we take kind of a different approach or look at.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't thought of it, but leading with security for design services, I think is very powerful because it plays on the FUD concept, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And if you can position yourself as an organization that checks a very important box around security, you know, it's sort of a given that you can do the design work.
Yeah, I know. That's what I think too. I'm like, I love that. Like, we want it to be pretty too, but we also need to make sure that it's
Yeah,
doing what we need it to do.
how about a low cost? And I know this happens all the time in marketing with like SEO audits, for example. How
Yeah.
about a low cost, you know, website security audit and have somebody on your team visit, you know, every website within 50 miles of your office for every town and every municipality and just identify some that have security flaws because you can probably identify them, right?
I would imagine.
Identify some and then create an event and maybe even, and I'm just really spitballing here, they're publicly available. It's not embarrassing if you were to pull up a town's website in your area and say, well, here's a flaw, and this is something that they should do something with. And then you could send them a copy of the webinar, even if they didn't attend. It reminds me of there was a movie from the 1980s, and you know, I'm certainly from the 1980s. I don't know if you are, but there was a movie called Tin Man. Do you remember the movie Tin Man?
I don't, but I am from the 80s.
Okay, all right. So I don't have the movie memorized, but um, Danny DeVito and the other guy, I forget who it was, they set up a camera photo shoot in front of this poor woman's house. And she comes out and she says, why are you guys about to take a photo of my house? And they say, well, we're going to be in this magazine about aluminum siding because they do aluminum siding. And they say, you're going to be the before house, and Mrs. Johnson's house down the street is going to be the after house. And all of a sudden, she's like, well, I want to be the after house. And there's a sale. So I feel like there's the same dynamic. Like if you wanted, so certainly you could be responding to RFPs through MyGovWatch, but certainly also if you had, again, reverse engineering your process, I would identify websites that have security flaws and come up with a webinar around that and market that webinar being a free event that IT or purchasing people at the government level in the government agencies that you'd like to work with, draw a circle 50 miles around your office, invite them to it and just give them good content about security flaws. And I think that would certainly lead to opportunities.
That's a great idea. I've taken lots of notes.
Yeah. Well, and this will be on YouTube as well. Just don't share it with the other marketing companies. There's always a million ways to try to develop your business, and that's just something that, yeah, just based on your security concept, I would think that there should be some interest in that.
Well, thank you very much for your time. And
yeah, for sure. And I don't see any other questions. Let's just see what we have in the group. So nothing else in the group. I'll just give it another second, folks, just a minute or two here to see if anyone else would like to raise their hand and just jump on with any additional questions. I know there's a few others who stayed on the panel, you know, sort of last call for alcohol, for lack of a better phrase. Yeah. So Amanda, if you don't have any other questions, I think we're probably going to wrap it up.
Nope, you answered all mine. Thank you very much.
All right, fantastic. So folks, that'll do it for today's edition of MyGovWatch Live, the B2G Roundtable. Remember, if you're not already a subscriber, start your free 14-day trial at mygovwatch.com today. If you want to win more government contracts for less with a curated experience that feels passive, you'll be glad you did. Thanks, folks.